My name is Marty Zeiger, and I'm a consultant for Noble Financial Capital Markets, and I have been for a couple of years, and I'm a member of the Scientific Advisory Board. I'm a lawyer, and this is my second conference, but I'm wondering, as you all, why the hell I'm up here. And the answer is that Nico Pronk and Mark Pinvidic thought that I sounded and heard a little bit like an icon in media. I don't think that's necessarily so, but you decide for yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, Larry King, my brother.
Thanks very much to all of you at Noble. It's great to be with you. I'm in Los Angeles, where it is currently 7 minutes after 5 in the morning. Streets are deserted. I was able to drive here in 6 minutes. If this were 5 hours later, it would take an hour and 6 minutes, that being Los Angeles. And I'm going to have the honor of talking to Mr. Pronk in a couple of minutes, but I thought I might tell you a couple of stories. I do a lot of speaking. I do speaking all over the world. I love to speak to people. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you this morning, but I'm happy to be here by satellite, the miracle of satellite. A lot of people have been successes in life, and you wonder, what was it like when they were younger? Could you have predicted the success of someone if you looked at them when they were like 14 or 15 years old? Well, in my case, you would not have been able to predict any success. My childhood was, let us say, I was lucky to get out of school. I was not a very good student. My brother, who just introduced me, was a great student. I was an ordinary student. I'll tell you how ordinary, and I'll tell you a little story that will tell you what the odds are that I would make anything in life. This story would tend to think that it disproves that completely. We were in the New York City school system. We were in 9th grade. The way it worked in New York City was middle school or junior high school was 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. Now I think middle schools are 8th grade and then high schools are 4 years. Our high schools were 3 years and junior high schools were 3 years. Anyway, we were in 9th grade and we were in 9B1. We were in 9B4. Let me explain you how it worked. 9B1 were A students. 9B2, B students. 9B3, C students. We were in 9B4. Which was, we're not sure. 9B5 were Neanderthals. Like the guy in 9B5 loved me because I removed a thorn from his paw. Anyway, we were not the brightest kids in the world. Anyway, one day we're in class, 9B4, it's like October of the year, we're going to graduate next June. We come into class and we sit down and we notice that Gil Mermelstein did not come to class. Gil Mermelstein, we called him Gil Moppo because he had hair like a mop, but he did not come to class. So 3 of us, Herbie Cohen, who went on to become the famous negotiator, he wrote You Can Negotiate Anything. He Playboy magazine called the world's greatest negotiator. Brazzi Abadi, who went on to become a brain surgeon in Buffalo, New York, and wound up owning his own hospital. And yours truly, my name was Larry Zeiger. Later I would become Larry King. Anyway, Herbie Cohen, Brazzi Abadi, and I go over to Moppo's house to find out why he did not come to school. We arrive at Moppo's house and we notice all the shades are drawn, and there's a young man sitting in front of the house looking forlorn, looking sad. We said to him, what's the matter? And he said, well, I'm Moppo's cousin. Moppo got tuberculosis. He's moved to Tucson, Arizona with his parents. I'm his only relative. I live in New Jersey. So I'm going to stay overnight and then I'm going to go to school tomorrow and tell the school that Moppo will not be back this term. In fact, he'll never be back because you can't leave a kid back in school in New York for sickness. So the next time he'll be back in Brooklyn will be to go to high school. So Herbie said to the kid, hey, listen, you live in New Jersey, go home and we'll tell the school that Moppo won't be back, that he's got tuberculosis. The kid says, really, thanks. He leaves. Now we're walking down the street. Me, Herbie, and Brassy. And Herbie says, I got a brilliant idea to make money. We'll tell them that Mappo died. And we'll collect money for the funeral, and we'll collect money for flowers and candy. I said, well, wait a minute. How are you going to get away with that? How will we tell him he died? He said, look, it's foolproof. Mappo's in Tucson. He won't be back for a year. When he comes back, he'll go to high school. By then, it'll all be forgotten. It can't miss. It can't miss. So we go into school the next day, we put our heads down, and we say, we went to Mappo's house, Mappo died. We collected $242. We got tickets to Dodger games, we got candy, we went to Coney Island, we went to Nathan's. Great time. Figured we got away with it, everything's fine. At school, all they did was call home to Mappo's house. They said, phone disconnected. They wrote deceased on the card. We were home free. About a month later, the principal asked to see us in his office. Well, we're scared. We're walking down the hall. I'm starting to cry. I don't have a father. What's going to happen? Brassy is crying. I'll never be a doctor. I'll never be a doctor. Herbie, the negotiator, no problem. I'll handle it. No problem. I'll tell him we had some difficulties. We'll get through it. We'll say we had a misunderstanding. We'll figure out a way to return the money. No problem. We go into his office. He is not mad. He is smiling. The principal says, sit down, my three young men. What the hell is going on? He says, we are so proud of the three of you. There's a citywide contest going on conducted by the New York Times. They think that junior high schools don't get enough attention. So they want junior high schools, each junior high school, to put on some sort of event, do something that can get them some attention, and the New York Times will do stories. Well, we had a faculty meeting, and at one of the meetings, one of the faculty members told us how the three of you raised money for the late Gil Mermelstein. We looked up our records, and we found out that Gil Mermelstein is the only student in the history of this school to die. Most of them make that leap. He said, so what we're going to have a Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly 2 days before graduation. We're going to present an award to the outstanding student in the school. The entire school will attend the assembly, and we'd like the three of you, in honor of your late friend, to sit on the stage at the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. All right, we should have told him. But we were caught up in the ego of the moment. We were kind of proud of ourselves, and we figured, as Herbie said, listen, look at it this way. One day Mappo will die. One day the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award will kick in. Anyway, it's the day of the assembly. This is a true story. It was written up in the New Yorker magazine. 2 days before graduation, the day of the assembly, the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly is about to take place. On the stage, Herbie, Brassy, and I. In the audience, the entire school body. Sitting in the corner is the winner of the first Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award. They have a giant plaque in the hall where each year they add the name of the next winner. They have a replica of the plaque to give to the student that wins that year. And we're sitting on the stage, a glorious morning in Brooklyn, the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award. And that day, that goddamn day, Mappo came back to school. As people like to say, in the history of tuberculosis, this was medicine's finest moment and cured Mappo. Mappo decides to come back to school. He didn't have to come back to school. It was only 2 days ago, but he decides to come back. There's 2 ways Marco can enter the auditorium. 2 big brass doors that lead on to 84th Street, or he can go through the side. He chooses 2 big brass doors. As he opens the doors, the first thing he sees is a banner. The Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. Now, Marco is not the brightest guy in the world, but he knows what memorial means. So he starts to freeze. A kid in the back row sizes up the situation right away. He figures it out immediately because he knows that Herbie, Brazzi, and Larry glommed us for $200. Marco's alive. And he sizes this up immediately because he's a New York City kid. If you're from New York City, I don't want to be gauche, but if you're from New York City, you're a step ahead. If you're a D student in New York, you could be mayor of Des Moines. It's just the nature of the beast. So we don't know what to do. The principal's reading the statements about the best kid. The kid is sitting on the stage. We're standing there. There's a panic. Herbie stands up on stage. To this day, I don't know why he said this. And he yells, "Go home, Marco, you're dead." Marco flees. There's panic in the auditorium. The winner of the award goes, do I get the award? Do I get the award? It's a panic scene. The principal looks at the 3 of us. His veins are coming out of his neck. "Come to my office right now. I never saw anyone angrier." We report to his office, the 3 of us. Now we're really in bad shape. I'm crying, Brazzi's crying. Herbie, here's Herbie. No problem. No problem, I'll handle it. We get inside the office, and I've never seen anyone angrier. He said, "The 3 of you are suspended from school. You will not graduate. Go down to your locker room, get your stuff, go home. I'm going to recommend Rikers Island. I'm going to recommend that you chop rocks till you're 18 years old. This is my saddest day in the history of the New York City school system. As a principal, I am beside myself. Get out of my sight." And Herbie said, "You're making a big mistake. Because if you suspend us, we'll be suspended, but there's got to be a hearing. In New York City, there's a hearing if you're suspended before the school board. And at the hearing, one of the school board members is going to say to you, Mr. Principal, 3 dumb, stupid kids come in and tell you a kid is dead. You make one phone call. They tell you the phone is off. You mark deceased on the card, and then you hold the whole assembly in his honor. Mr. Principal, we'll be suspended, but I don't think you'll ever be principal again in the city of New York." So the principal, he's whipped. He looks down, and Herbie says, "I tell you what we'll do. Why don't we just forget the whole thing? 2 days we'll graduate and look beyond." So the principal's totally whipped, and 2 days later, we graduated. End of story. We graduated not in alphabetical order, but in size. So Marco is right in front of Herbie as we're going down to get our diplomas. And the principal's reading off the names, da-da-dee, da-da-dee, da-da-dee. When he gets to Marco, he says, "Gil Mermelstein." Herbie pushed him aside and said, "I'll take it, he died." So that's an example of how you can fail and succeed.
Here is our president, Nico Pronk, coming up to the dais.
Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Nico. But I never knew anyone named. I know Pronk is not a Jewish name.
Well, I'm sometimes called Pronkstein, but I think that's the trait that I learned from you, New Yorkers, you know. No, Pronk is not a Jewish name. It's a Dutch name, Larry. I was born and raised in Amsterdam.
But you live now in Florida?
I've been in Florida since 1988 when I joined Noble. I had the opportunity to help build this great company. And like you have lived in Florida, It's a great,
And that's right.
great lifestyle
Great state.
and a great place to build a business.
All right, about the business, let's discuss some things. Small cap stocks, as opposed to large cap stocks, small cap stocks covers what area?
Small cap stocks, everybody looks at it differently as far as the definition. For us, Larry, we use a $2 billion market cap. Everything below $2 billion in market capitalization, we consider small cap.
So you break it off in 2 million. What's the overall, right now, current situation in that part of the industry?
Well, the situation is pretty good. We had some very rough times during the financial crisis, and the small cap stocks, that side of the equity markets tends to get hit very hard. The liquidity dries up, but we've been very fortunate in the last 2-3 years that the risk capital is coming back to this side of the market, and I'm very optimistic for the years to come here. Considering a low interest rate environment, that we're going to continue to see good times for small cap stocks. Albeit, let's be honest, last year was a tough year for small caps. They underperformed their large cap peers by a wide margin. But I'm very optimistic that going into this year, into 15, that we probably see that reverse by the end of the year.
What turned it around?
What turned it around? Small caps, and that's why I'm in the seat here. The small cap companies are the growth engine of the world economy. Most of the employment is created in small cap companies, Larry. There's a lot of excitement there. It takes a little bit longer for the risk capital to reach that side of capital markets. But once it's there, it creates a lot of momentum, and we believe that we're seeing that right now. There's a lot of money flowing into this group.
So as a neophyte, break it down for me. The merchant bank, Noble does what?
So we're a research-driven investment bank, and in the last couple of years, we've also added a merchant banking capability. We've been very successful in seeding primarily South Florida-based companies that are earlier stage. We typically work as a company, as an investment bank, with public companies. Again, public companies with market caps of $2 billion and below. But on the merchant banking side, we use the leverage, or we leverage the research capabilities and the research that we have in our firm to invest primarily for our own account in companies earlier on, before they go public. And we've had some really good success stories here in South Florida. A company that we funded back in 2002, 2003. It's a company called 1-800-PET-MEDS. I don't know if you've heard of that. I don't know if you have a cat or a dog at home, Larry, but 1-800-PET-MEDS is the America's largest pet pharmacy. So it was a great story. It's still publicly traded on NASDAQ. We're also involved with some other companies here in South Florida. One company is in what we call the telehealth space, personal emergency response systems, called Mobile Help. They basically allow older people to live in their homes longer. I'm sure you have seen the commercial, I fell and I couldn't get up, and I had this button. It saved me. Well, this system is a little bit more advanced. That's the traditional system that you know from the commercials. The company that we backed and funded has a mobile component, so it allows the elderly to not only use the system in the home, but go play golf, go to the theater, and improve the quality of their lives. And now, just recently, this company joined up with Honeywell to basically allow the elderly to monitor their vital signs right from their home, so they don't have to go to their family doctor or to a specialist. They can measure their blood glucose levels, their body temperature, their heart rate, and it's sent up straight from the device to the caregiver. So it's improving the quality of life for people, and it's also cutting a lot of costs out of the healthcare system. So very encouraging activity there.
So the advance in technology is a great deal a part of the advance of your business.
Absolutely. As a business, we focus on three verticals, Larry. Healthcare being one of them. That's how I met your brother, Marty. He's part of our advisory board on the healthcare side. We're also focused on natural resources, oil and gas, and minerals and mining. And then we have what we call a TMT group, which stands for technology, media, and telecom. So those three main verticals are the areas that we cover at Noble.
Couple of other quick things. Why are oil prices dropping?
I thought you were going to explain it to me this morning.
I like it when I go to the gas station.
Larry, I sense from your story that you shared with the audience this morning that you're pretty common sense. It's a supply and demand issue. Actually, 2 years ago, at our conference at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, I addressed the group and we talked about oil prices for a bit. And at that time, oil prices were trading closer to $100, and the situation didn't make sense. And I think the markets finally came to some sense of reality, and things settled down. The Saudis are pumping a lot of oil, as you know, and they don't care about supply. I think they're trying to push a lot of the drillers here in the U.S. out. And of course, we've had a lot of supply from some of the oil shales here in the U.S. So overall, it's a simple supply and demand situation. And I personally believe, and we believe that oil is probably going to stabilize in the $50 to $60 level over time, because global demand is still not there, and with the European economy chugging along, it's a difficult situation to see any considerable price increases here in the next 12 to 24 months from our perspective.
America is now the largest producer, isn't it?
America's been producing a lot of oil up in North Dakota and Montana, but the cost to explore there is significantly higher than what some of the other nations like the Saudis can drill for. So we're right at that line where it's going to be cash flow positive for those drillers. So that's why we believe that prices will stabilize probably in the $50 to $60 range here in the near future.
You favor the pipeline?
I do favor the pipeline. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think just the opportunity of a potential pipeline is probably driving these prices down as well right now, because a pipeline would greatly enhance logistics here in the United States and make us less dependent on foreign oil.
All right, two other things. Are healthcare costs ever going to level off?
I believe so. I think technology, and there are a lot of companies actually in the audience today that help drive healthcare costs down. And regulations, unfortunately, make it very difficult for a lot of those companies to advance their technologies at the pace that technology actually allows today. But I really believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, healthcare as a percentage of our GDP, of our total economy, which right now, as a country, we're spending about 22% of GDP on healthcare, which compared to Western Europe, it's in the low double digits, like 11, 12%. We all know that the Western Europeans don't live any longer than us Americans. Yet we're spending almost twice as much on healthcare. So it's a problem here in the United States. We all know it. There hasn't been any political will to change it, but I think technology will drive it. And there's a lot of great advancement going on that I will believe that over the next decade or two, we see healthcare as a percentage of GDP come closer to what we're seeing in Europe. And that's very encouraging for the economy as a whole.
So you're obviously optimistic.
I'm very optimistic. I was born optimistic. Of course, the issue, situations like we saw in Paris just recently in 9/11 always keep you up at night. But I think the economy, the broader economy here in the United States is very healthy. Corporate balance sheets look extremely good. A lot of companies delevered during the economic crisis. So I think, America, if you examine the body of America, it's a very healthy body right now, and as long as interest rates stay relatively low, I think we're going to chuck along at 2 to 3% GDP growth, which is a fantastic environment for us to operate in.
Mr. Pronk, thank you very much. I salute you. I hope you have a very successful conference. It's been wonderful being with you this morning, and I'll turn it back over to my dear brother Marty.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Before Nico takes over with some housekeeping and other matters, I want to tell a Larry story that nobody knows. It's the late 70s. The years are important here. I'm a young practicing lawyer in New York. My brother is a big fish in a small pond in South Florida. We are visiting my mother, who lived down here in the hospital. I come down from New York, and then we go out to dinner on 41st Street in Miami Beach, the Forge restaurant, Arthur Godfrey Road, a name you don't hear anymore, but he was very influential in Larry's early career. We walk into the Forge and we sit down at a table for two, and there's two elderly couples sitting next to us at a table for four. One of the men recognizes Larry and says, "Larry, glad to meet your brother. Please have dinner with us." So the table for four, the table for two became a table for six. I go to the restroom. I come back. Emile, the maitre d', says to me, "I could get the name of the paper in tomorrow's Miami Herald." I said, "Why is that?" "Seen having dinner, Larry King and Maya Lansky." It was Maya Lansky, the gangster. I'm walking back and I'm saying to myself, which grand jury is going to subpoena me first? Everyone knew Mr. Lansky was tailed wherever he went. And the other man with him was Jimmy Blue Eyes, who in some of the papers was considered Maya Lansky's contract killer. I go back, I'm giving one-word answers, and my dear brother, asked Maya Lansky the one question I wouldn't have asked him. "Maya, did you see Godfather 2? I was no longer interested in the grand jury, I was interested in the health of my legs. Because Mr. Lansky, even though he was elderly and frail, you could tell you didn't go too far with him. Sure enough, Lansky, after a pregnant pause, starts to laugh and says, "King, always with the questions. Of course I saw it, great fiction. Lee Strasberg playing Hyman Roth was supposed to be me, but he was killed at the Miami airport by Michael Corleone's men. And here I am, live, living out my retirement on Miami Beach." So I wanted you to hear that story.
Marty, and I appreciate you bringing your brother to address the Noble Group here this morning. Also want to thank all of you for coming to Noble's 11th conference. We have an exciting agenda for the next 2.5 days. We're going to work hard during the day, and we're going to have some very fine entertainment at night. Couple of housekeeping issues as it relates to some of the events at night. It's going to be a little chillier than normal here in Florida. Going to be in the 50s, I think, tonight. So most of the activities will be outdoors. So if you want to wear a sweater, so you stay comfortable, that would be. I would advise everyone to do that. More importantly, let's talk about some of the things that we're doing at Noble right now. Marty is here with us, representing the advisory board, the scientific advisory board. We have all of our members of the scientific advisory board that are guiding our healthcare team with us in the audience today, and then we'll be talking to a meeting with a lot of the life sciences companies that are presenting here. So we're very excited. I want to thank those advisory board members to be with us there for the next 2.5 days. Also at Noble, we're in the process of doing actually what we have been doing on the healthcare side, to copy that on the technology side of the house as well. And during the second quarter of this year, we are launching a technology advisory board with a group of people that we believe will help us not only improve on our research, but also help us on the banking and merchant banking side to take our franchise to the next level. So we're very, very excited about that. As it relates to last year's conference, every year we do a little review of some of the winners of the prior year, and I would like to make an announcement here that the winner of last year's conference, as far as the best returns since that company's CEO presented at that conference, was Naked Brands. So congratulations to Naked Brands. That was up 68% year over year. Also Avino Minerals and Mining. Profit and Service Corp, Realm Wireless, they all made it to the top 4. The average return for the best 10 companies of last year's conference was up 48%, which is pretty darn good given the fact that, as I said earlier, and I shared with you that the small caps have been lagging the overall market last year. Basically the small cap index was flat for the year, the Russell. Whereas the Dow and S&P were almost double digits. So a very good performance for our presenting companies. We have a great lineup of companies this year. I'm very excited to have some of the names on the presenting company list. A lot of new names here that we haven't seen in other years. So I want to thank our research staff, our scientific advisory board, and our investment bankers for pulling together a lineup like that. It's really outstanding, and I'm looking forward to sit in some of those presentations and hear the stories from the executive teams directly. Also, we have some very interesting panel presentations. This is the first year we're actually organizing panel presentations. We have 2 presentations, one tonight and one tomorrow night, or I should say this afternoon is the last thing before we start the cocktail reception. That's in room number 4, right there next door in the main conference area. Both panels are kind of healthcare related. The first panel tonight is about alternative funding for healthcare companies and strategic funding. And tomorrow we will have a very exciting immunotherapy panel that's moderated by Raul Jasuya, our analyst on the life science side. So we're very excited to have those. I welcome you all to join and participate. That's it from my side. I want to thank you again for joining. A lot of you traveled from far. We had some weather-related issues yesterday, but I think 95% of the people that have to be here today are here, despite airports closing and some bad weather in the Northeast. So thank you very much. I want to thank all the sponsors that have been supporting us over the last couple of years, and the new sponsors that have joined us this year. We're adding to our sponsor list every year, and it's very exciting to see the commitment of those corporations and the people behind those corporations to help make our event a bigger event. So thank you very much. I want to thank Mark Pinvidic and his entire conference staff for putting together another great event. Mark works tirelessly over the year to put this together. And I want to again thank Marty and his brother for giving this wonderful address this morning. Fantastic, Marty. Thank you for putting this together. And thank you all for being here. I wish you all a very successful and enjoyable conference. Thank you. Thank you.